everybody, it's TJ here. Welcome to another episode of Smash Ultimate Countdown, the show where we count down the days to the release of Smash Ultimate for Nintendo Switch on December 7th. So what are we doing here? We're breaking down all of the entries on the Smash blog that have appeared on the SmashBrothers.com website during the week. We'll go over the facts, I'll connect it to my own personal experience, sprinkle in my opinion, and as always I want to invite you to leave your opinion on anything we talk about today in the comments section below. The first entry on the Smash blog for this week is actually very closely related to the final entry on the Smash blog from last week. As you know, last week we had a Nintendo Direct, and one of the big Smash related bits of business is that Isabel is confirmed as a new character for Smash Brothers. So first up we have a character spotlight for Isabel. So what new information do we learn? Most significantly, I think, is that her fishing rod is actually her side special. When I first saw the move performed, I assumed that it was perhaps her grab, kind of like Link's hook shot. I suspected that she might be able to use it to recover from the edge, and it's confirmed that she can. It looks like it's got some pretty significant range, so that's awesome. We get a little bit of a closer look at some of Isabel's other moves, which are just all little trinkets that you can find throughout the Animal Crossing game. You can tell that a lot of love went into crafting this character, and one of the coolest things about it is she just seems so happy to be here in Smash Brothers. Some characters who are typically known as being happy-go-lucky personalities, like Mario for example, when they come to Smash, they bring their game face. Mario's ready to rumble, but Isabel is completely true to form. She is going about all her normal Animal Crossing business with a big old puppy dog smile on her face, ready to beat some fools up. Many, including myself, have suspected ever since Echo Fighters were first announced that Isabel might be able to be a very fitting Echo Fighter of the Villager. As we talked about last week, Isabel is being included as her own character, but you can see how she was probably built off of the Villager model, which maybe puts her more in clone character category. Some of her movement animations are very similar to the Villager, and even her moves themselves, while they are distinctly different and unique, they almost all have their Villager equivalent, and I think that's completely appropriate in this case. Just a really masterful way of bringing a non-combative character into the fighting fold. The next feature on the Smash blog is for an item, this time for an assist trophy in the form of the indie superstar poster child Shovel Knight. Shovel Knight is the first non-Nintendo character who didn't appear in the last iteration of Smash Brothers to get his own amiibo, still a very rare and distinct honor. We actually have 3 more Shovel Knight amiibo to look forward to: Spectre Knight, Plague Knight, and King Knight. If you should summon Shovel Knight via his assist trophy, he can use his shovel blade to appropriately dig you into the dirt, throw rocks at you, or dig up some buried treasure in the form of food. To me, it seems like a very fitting way to honor a character who, while is not a Nintendo character per se, does evoke a lot of the feelings of classic Nintendo, and you can see a lot of the inspirations that were taken from Nintendo games that Yacht Club infused into Shovel Knight. I did recently get to do a co-op playthrough of the game with my little brother, and it really is retro-style classic side-scrolling at its best. A lot of people were hoping to have Shovel Knight as a playable character in Smash Brothers this time around. During the time of the Smash ballot for Smash 4, myself, as well as a bunch of other independent entities, conducted a poll just to get some kind of idea where people were and how they were voting, and on my poll, Shovel Knight actually came up as number 1. Now, to be fair, at the time there was a lot of heat behind Shovel Knight. While I do think he certainly will have an enduring place in the grand scheme of gaming, I want to say for myself, I didn't quite feel like the time was right for him to roll with the big boys. I don't mean any disrespect by that, only that he's still a very new character. But he's been good for Nintendo, and Nintendo's been very good for him. I think an assist trophy is the perfect place for this guy this go around. So in honor of this Indie Stars inclusion, for Chivalry! The music sample we have for this week is the title theme from Animal Crossing Happy Home Designer. I'm not gonna lie to you guys, while I am a really big Animal Crossing fan, I never actually felt the desire to play Happy Home Designer. I understand it introduced some quality of life improvements to redesigning the interior of your house that would eventually make it into Animal Crossing New Leaf via the Welcome Amiibo update, so I'm happy for that. Animal Crossing music in general is so chill. It's a game that encourages you to play at your own pace, and for as many hours as I've poured into that game, I can honestly say I have never ever tired of the music. But when I think of it as a Smash Brothers theme song, immediately I'm like, you know, this game makes me want to just sit back and relax. It doesn't make me want to start punching people in the face. So I was really curious to give this one a listen. It starts off with a pretty thumping beat, then kicks into a bit of an Irish jig that evolves into a little bit of a 70s or 80s synth rock tune. This arrangement comes from Kazumi Totaka, who's actually a staff member of the original game. I'm really curious to see what other Animal Crossing inspired tunes make it into Smash Brothers. To give this one a listen, head on over to SmashBrothers.com, click on the music tab, but maybe wait till after this video's done. The Smash blog stage of the week is the hometown of Earthbound hero Ness, Net. For any of you out there that didn't play Earthbound, one of the cool things that they did was each town had a number associated with it. So you had Net is actually the first 3 letters are 1, and then you have Tucson, Threed and Fourside. Onett, being Ness's hometown, is logically the first place where you're going to start in the game. But it didn't actually make it into Smash Bros. For Ness's first appearance. Ness, as you know, was one of the secret hidden characters in the first game for the Nintendo 64, but Onett didn't make its Smash Bros. Debut until Melee. It has one of the most memorable stage hazards to me, which is the cars driving back and forth and hitting you. According to the Smash Blog entry, the cars can hit you for up to 30% damage, which I don't know that I ever really knew. I just know that I try to avoid them as best as I can and knock my opponents down there so they can get the car hit treatment. I really love the look of this stage. It does take me back to playing Earthbound, but I have to say it's not one of my favorite to play on. It's one that kind of gives me a little bit of anxiety because I don't like how all of the sections that you fight on are so small. I feel like it's one that keeps me constantly on my toes and has a little bit more stress than most of the stages. And even though I played Earthbound something like 2 decades ago, it's nice to know that I can visit Onett again in Smash Ultimate. Next up, we have a character highlight for the Demon King, Ganondorf. The bearer of the Triforce of Power, Ganondorf, or Ganon as he's referred to in many of the Legend of Zelda titles, is easily among the most important villains in Nintendo history. Not even villains, but maybe characters in general. Now this character's always been a sore spot for me in Smash Bros. Mr. Sakurai has gone on record as saying that Ganondorf barely even made it into Smash Bros. Melee, which was his first appearance, and he only even snuck in because of the fortuitous similarities between his physical form and Captain Falcon's. So I'm very glad that Mr. Sakurai went the extra mile to try to get such an important character into the game, but for subsequent entries, I find it to be completely tragic and almost inexcusable that even as recent as Smash Bros. 4, Ganondorf has still not shaken his clone character status. Each subsequent entry, he makes strides to get a little bit further and further away from his clone origins, and Smash Ultimate is no exception. This is the most distance he has from Captain Falcon. I did get to play as Ganondorf at E3, and he's the character I had the most success with. I'm not a Ganondorf main, he's not a character I spent a whole lot of time playing as, but I really did want to see how different he felt, and by and large he feels the same. But those sword smashes, that is a significant upgrade in my opinion. Let me just air my grievances with you here a little bit. There's only one Legend of Zelda game where Ganon doesn't wield a weapon, and that is the original Legend of Zelda. And the biggest challenge isn't actually defeating him, it's figuring out how to beat him and making sure that by the time that you get to him, you're equipped to do so, because if you don't have the right weapons in your arsenal, he's undefeatable. Every other version of Ganondorf or Ganon, he uses either a trident or a sword. One of the thematic characteristics of the Legend of Zelda characters in Smash Bros. Going back to Melee is that the design team put them all into the same circa. So you have Link, Ganondorf, and Zelda in their Ocarina of Time form for Melee. They all favor a Twilight Princess appearance for Brawl, and that Twilight Princess inspired likeness would carry on into Smash Bros. 4, including a Twilight Princess inspired design for Sheik, who never actually appeared in any game outside of Ocarina of Time. For the first time in Smash Bros., the character designs for Link, Zelda, and Ganondorf are all inspired by different games. Link being from Breath of the Wild, Zelda with her A Link Between Worlds design, although it does look a little bit more like A Link to the Past to me. And Ganondorf, of course, has his Ocarina of Time design. While I am disappointed that Ganondorf hasn't made greater strides to distinguish himself from Captain Falcon, I am really glad that they went with the Ocarina of Time design, because Ocarina of Time is the first game where Ganon appears as Ganondorf. Every game prior to that, he was Ganon, the pig-like demon beast. And when he's in his Ganondorf form in Ocarina of Time, he does not use a weapon. It isn't until he transforms into Ganon that he dual wields with the big blades. So it makes me feel like it's a little bit more appropriate to the character. Basically, all he does is fly around and throw magic, which still isn't really how he plays in Smash Bros. Ganondorf doing that high splits kick, it just does not feel like Ganon to me. Now maybe it's just me, but I find it a little bit sad and a little bit disappointing that the best version of Ganon out there isn't even a Legend of Zelda game. For me, hands down, the most compelling representation of Ganondorf is Hyrule Warriors. Not only is he rocking this epic red mane, but he's dual wielding these savage swords that kind of remind me of Demise from Skyward Sword, and he can alternatively use the trident. Either one of these representations I feel like would have meant a much more awesome showing in Smash Bros. Now I know some of you out there are being like, we already have too many sword wielders in Smash. Okay, give him that trident. We don't have any trident wielders. I guess Palutena's the closest thing. How super sweet and awesome would it be for Ganondorf to fight with a trident? Okay, maybe the reason why I'm so bothered by this is Ganondorf is not just some side character thrown into the game. He is a pillar of the Legend of Zelda series. Undisputedly among the top 3 most important characters. Undisputedly. The only villain in all of Nintendo's lore that could even arguably be more important, more influential, or more impactful than Ganon is Bowser. So with a gaming pedigree that goes all the way back to the original NES, the main villain of all the Legend of Zelda games, and this guy can't even get a completely unique character. I understand these things take time, and to break him away from what has been established as his character in Smash Bros. Could be a bit of a process because there are people out there who are Ganondorf mains. And if Ganondorf is your character, and then all of a sudden Sakurai and the team behind Smash Bros. Start making really significant changes to the character that you like to play as, to the extent that I'm talking about, where he's basically a completely new character, I could see how that would be disappointing. So let me put it out there to you guys, my player pals at home. If you main Ganondorf, would you be disappointed to see changes like I'm proposing? If you don't play as Ganondorf, do you think if there were significant changes that it might inspire you to want to play as him? Do you like the direction they're taking Ganondorf for Smash Bros. Ultimate, or like me, do you wish they went a little bit further? One of the hallmarks of the Legend of Zelda series is that the characters can change their appearance significantly from game to game, and that's been reflected in Ganondorf more than any of the other characters. I told you my favorite version of Ganondorf comes from Hyrule Warriors. Let me know somewhere in the comment section below what is your favorite representation of the Demon King. And the final entry on the Smash blog for this week is another character highlight, this time for one of the original veterans of Smash Bros. On the Nintendo 64, Pikachu. Pikachu is the main mascot of the Pokemon series. We got some 800 odd Pokemon out there, more than anyone but the most elite Pokemon fans could ever possibly hope to name. But Pikachu is undisputedly the most ubiquitous part of Pokemon pop culture. You don't even need to know about Pokemon to know who Pikachu is. He's cute, he's a rodent, and he can zap you with electricity. All of those things make their way into Smash Bros. He's super fast, and at least at the time when I first started playing Smash Bros. On 64, he seemed to be the gateway character. Most people who are intimidated by the playstyle and aren't really into fighting games, I was a Smash Bros. Evangelist. Every friend I had, every friend I made, I invited them over to play 4-player Smash Bros. It's definitely one of the highlights of my high school career. Yep, I played Smash Bros. 64 all the way back when I was in high school. And more often than not, people who just started playing for the first time went for Pikachu. Yes, it might have had something to do with his heinously cheap Thunder Shock. I know that bothered a lot of people, but I actually found it to be incredibly charming. Yes, I fell victim to its spam abuse many times, but because the people who were doing it to me were having so much fun, and the emphasis wasn't on competition, the emphasis was on trying to get these people to have fun playing this game with me, I'd say Pikachu really in large part helped make that mission accomplished. Smash Bros. Ultimate isn't Pikachu's only big outing this year. Preceding Smash in November is Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu, and of course the companion title Pokemon Let's Go Eevee. Of course I like Pikachu like everybody out there. What heathen doesn't like Pikachu? But I'm more of an Eevee man myself. I actually kind of hoped as soon as they announced Pokemon Let's Go Eevee that maybe Eevee would find his way into Smash Bros. As one of the new Pokemon, and that they might find some cool way to be able to integrate all of his evolution types. I know that that's far-reaching considering that Eevee evolves with evolution stones. I thought it might be really awesome if they had some kind of Pokemon trainer mechanic where that Pokemon trainer just had a different evolution form of all the different Eevees and you can switch between them. I thought it might be a really awesome way to cross-promote that game. I guess there's always the chance that it could happen for DLC, but strike when the kettle's hot and all that. The farther we get away from the release of the game, probably the less relevant it becomes. It took me a long time to accept the fact that some of the other Pokemon that are in Smash Bros. Are in Smash, like Jigglypuff and Lucario. I've come to terms with it, I'm okay. But Pikachu's one that needs no explanation. He obviously belongs amongst Nintendo's greatest all-stars of all time. Even still, I'm buying Pokemon Let's Go Eevee. How about you? And in other Smash-related news, new renders were discovered for some of the characters in Smash Bros. By way of the good folks at Source Gaming. It includes the Breath of the Wild tunic version of Link, male Wii Fit trainer, female Pokemon trainer, Gorilla Marth, Lucha Pikachu, you know, the masked one with the wrestling costume. If you want to see more, we've got a video up on Nintendo Wire. I'll link to it in the description below. And if you're looking for a link to the Source Gaming video, I'll include that as well. Last time we covered the Smash Bros. Ultimate Switch bundle, which came with a digital copy of the game, a Smash Bros. Themed dock, which includes monochromatic art of some of the characters, and a Smash Bros. Inspired set of Joy-Cons, which have the crosshash part of the Smash logo. For people who already own a Switch, maybe that's not enough to compel them to buy a second version, but this last week Nintendo did confirm that the dock and the Joy-Cons will be sold separately. In Japan, at least. Last I heard, it's unclear whether or not these will ever make their way to the States, but it's getting easier and easier to import things by way of Play Asia and some other places. So if you do want those versions, and you don't want to double down on another Switch, know that that is a possibility for you. I just might pick up that dock myself. I do find that it would be very convenient to have a second dock in the house, and that Smash one just might be the ticket. And finally, for you Amiibo fans out there, Best Buy has started taking pre-orders for reissues of some of the last line of Smash Bros. Amiibo. Do you have any holes in your Amiibo collection that you were not able to complete? Maybe Best Buy has the answer for you. The restock includes Marth, Ganondorf, Pac-Man, Captain Falcon. Oh, that's funny. Captain Falcon and his clone copy character Ganondorf both get restocks together. And Lucina. Stay tapped into Amiibo News and Nintendo Wire, and we'll let you know of any future restocks that emerge. And that wraps up another episode of Smash Ultimate Countdown. One of the most exciting and entertaining things about a Smash Bros. Release is that hype cycle leading up to the game. I really appreciate that Nintendo keeps drip feeding us these little tidbits of information every day of the week, and I really love that I get to talk about it with my favorite player pals out there, you guys. So if you watched all the way to the end of this video, I want you to know I really appreciate your time. But as I've said before, I don't want this to be just one silly talking head. Let's turn this monologue into a dialogue. Join the conversation by sharing your thoughts in the comment section below. If this is helping you pass the time till the release of Smash Ultimate on Nintendo Switch on December 7th, maybe leave a like. If you haven't yet, you can subscribe to the channel, and be sure to ring that notifications bell so that you can get an alert anytime a new Nintendo Wire video goes live. To all my patrons out there, you guys are the best, and I love you. And to everybody, we'll see you next time. Thanks for playing.